Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. My name is Maria Papaioannoy, and I'm co-owner of the e-cig Flavorium. We have 3 locations, one in downtown Toronto, the Toronto Beaches, and Port Hope. I'm also a leading member of the movement Vapor Advocates of Ontario, who use activism to ensure that vaping is fairly legislated and regulated in this province. On November 1st, the government threatened my business by entering a piece of legislation that could potentially harm the lives of thousands of customers and my ability to serve them. In 2010, my husband and I quit smoking using vaping products. In 2013, we opened our first retail store. Our inspiration for doing so was to help people that also wanted to use vapor technology as their choice to remove cigarettes from their lives. Despite the comments that have been made that the vaping industry is targeting the children, our actions in Ontario and the rest of Canada show evidence to the contrary. We have organizations like CVA and ECTA that set standards for our industry. When we opened in 2013, there was no regulation in Canada and Ontario. Nevertheless, we looked at others in this sector and followed self-regulation. From day one, we implemented a 19-plus purchase requirement for our customers. As business owners and consumers, we wanted to make sure that what we sold was of the highest standards, and we looked at organizations like ECTA for guidance. We educated our customers on product safety and usage, and to this day, we ensure that whoever walks through our doors to make a purchase leaves with the ability to safely and effectively use their vapor device. We witness daily the power this product has to help remove combustible cigarettes from smokers' lives. We see the success rates of staying smoke-free when a vapor finds that perfect flavor. When I look at this legislation, it is apparent to me that the writers did not accept any input from industry stakeholders and created a bill that does not take into account the day-to-day aspects of what happens in my business to help adult smokers stay smoke-free. But they did find a way to haphazardly take current tobacco regulations and force-fit them into vaping products. By doing this, they are sending a message to Ontarians that smoking and vaping are the same, and why make the switch? They are ignoring the growing scientific evidence that this is a safer alternative. In speaking with customers, colleagues, and other stakeholders, it is apparent that this proposed legislation is being received with adverse reaction. Schedule 3 treats vaping no different than tobacco when it shouldn't. I'm requesting that this committee add amendments that would respect the current goal of Bill S5 and Health Canada, which will be making vaping products in our country, upon royal assent, a consumer product, not tobacco. By looking at peer-reviewed studies like the 2016 Cochrane collaboration, which I've made a copy for each of you, and aligning with Health Canada's messaging on vapor products, prohibitive legislation like this would not be necessary. When you are looking at these amendments, please do not think of vaping as a tobacco product, because it is not. I ask that the amendments to be made to display and promotion. Displaying products openly in our stores gives the consumer the ability to learn effectively how to use the product. They will witness and participate in assembling and using the device inside with the help of experts. Sampling of e-liquids is also important in the process to help smokers make the transition to be smoke-free. I would also recommend that advertising not be treated in the same manner as tobacco, and amendments be made to allow for respectful and controlled advertising for retail outlets. As an emerging industry, people need to know, adults over the age of 19 need to know, where vapor retailers are located to ensure that smokers and current vapors within our communities know where we are. Lastly, I would highly recommend that this committee implement a year mandatory review period on this issue. Positions of respected health groups and scientific studies are released quickly on vaping. For example, just this morning, the British Medical Association announced that it has reversed its position on e-cigarettes and is now fully in support of the Public Health England's position on vaping. I would like to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to participate in these proceedings. In respect to the over 900,000 Ontario residents that have chosen to use vaping technology as their way to live smoke-free, I will share the messaging of the members of the movement known as VAO. First, vaping isn't smoking, and second, vaping does save lives. Thank you.
Faristo, Ms. Papaioannoy.
Parakalo.
Merci. And to Mr. Potts, 3 minutes.
Yeah, caray, sí te ganas.
Caray, sí. Now,
You're driving our translators crazy.
There we are. Sorry, my apologies. Of course, you and I met both 2 years ago around Bill 45, and
2014, 3 years ago.
Oh,
now.
it was a 3 year. Thank you very much. It was earlier. And at the time, you were tweeting smack at me and a whole bunch of my colleagues, and you were a little surprised when I responded and came down and visit. And I want to know, it was a very important meeting we had at your store down off of Queen Street, and I heard that story very clear from not just you and your husband, but all the people that were in the store that you introduced me to had found smoke cessation of combustible cigarette tobacco through vaping. And then we have all these people who are writing in, and it's all a testament both to your organizational prowess, but it's very impressive. Wendy Simpson, for 33 years, smoked a pack of cigarettes. She says, for those of us who turned to vaping to quit smoking, it has been a godsend. Or Catherine Bannon, I've been off cigarettes for 7 years, and beforehand I could hardly run up and down stairs, but now I can walk for hours, play games with the kids, tags, races, and I met people at your store who were running marathons now there. So I got early on the fact that there was a harm reduction here. So were you in any way encouraged by what the Canadian Vaping Association was saying about the meetings they're having with our staff, that you're not being treated the same as tobacco because the regulations are going to provide the exclusions to allow you to do the things you need to do in your stores?
Respectfully, from what I'm just learning about politics. So vaping has given me many things, and one of the things is understanding the legislative process in Ontario, and it took me 45 years, but I got it now. From one thing that I do understand is that the government has the ability to change regulations without going through extensive processes. Am I correct on that? And the other thing is, as a voter right now, I'm being inundated by commercials that are telling me not to trust this government or that government. So right now, as I'm sitting here fighting for my business and fighting for the lives of my customers and ensuring that they stay smoke-free, I'm going to say I'm going to bet on the legislation, because it's going to be a heck of a lot harder to change than regulation, because everyone's telling me not to trust any government.
So fair enough.
Point.
We've taken the approach in our government in a lot of areas that we want to be flexible and nimble. We do that better through regulations. It gives us more latitude to do things as new evidence comes forward. Other members of the legislature, the official opposition particularly, they want everything detailed in the legislation, and so that may get covered. But every time a regulation comes forward, it gets a comment period. There is an opportunity for public input. It just doesn't take months and months and months and months. Okay, so I would take comfort in the fact that we have your back. We'll be looking after opportunities for your business and your customers to completely be to have your products work and do harm reduction in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Potts. The PC side, Mr. Hillier.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Maria, for being here today.
Thank you.
I just want to follow up, because I think it was an important interaction you just had with the government member, in that even though for 3 years now the evidence has been overwhelming and convincing to that member, they still brought out another piece of legislation that says vaping is tobacco and must be treated like tobacco in the legislation. And that really is at the crux of it. They may make some exemptions. Hopefully your pressure and influences of good health in reducing the harm for people throughout the province does give them cause to provide some exemptions. But really, after 3 years of recognizing all those letters, they still have come out that vaping is tobacco. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked others, Maria. Everybody that I know who vape, and every person that I've met in a vape shop, is somebody who was a smoker or is a smoker who's looking for a way to stop. Is that your experience with your stores, that or these people that don't smoke, never smoked, and just want to come in and find a new way to do tricks with steam?
Okay, so just to be clear, first of all, people don't come into our shops to learn how to do tricks and do steams. It is smokers. And the other thing is... And
they want to looking to quit.
Stop smoking. The other thing is, I don't know why it is so difficult for government right now to make the smallest amendment and acknowledge that vaping is not tobacco. By doing that, you lift a shame. You do not understand, and those of you who have never smoked, you might not be able to understand this, or I hope you can find a way to empathize it, but smokers are shamed in this province, and that is now continuing to people who are choosing vaping products to stop smoking. And if the Ontario government truly, truly cared to help people stop smoking and looked at this as an opportunity, they would make it a consumer product and follow
Maria,
Health
that's
Canada's.
exactly what Public Health England has said and that's why they've embraced it and stated that they want to facilitate and allow people as great access to vapes, because that has been one of the impediments for people stopping smoking using vapes, is that the misinformation that vapes are another type of tobacco, or that there's concern and cause and fear over it. I would encourage members to read the public health education statement on this. That we
Thanks,
cannot.
Hillier. To Mr. Natashak, 3 minutes.
Reduction.
Thank you, Chair. I get that vapes are not cigarettes and it's not tobacco. I understand that completely. They're told two different things. Although the method of ingestion, is kind of similar. You inhale both, you exhale both. They both produce a visible component. It's that specific that we have to, I think, get our heads around in terms of where it's used, because people who don't vape and people who don't smoke, I think, also have a right to not be exposed to it. Would you agree?
I do, and I also believe that people who choose vaping technology do not have to bear the burden of being labeled as tobacco users.
I agree. Mr. Keeley from the Vaping Association mentioned accreditation and certification. Are you currently?
Absolutely. I'm 100% behind the Canadian Vaping Association's plan on accreditation and certification, because it will give us that extra bit more to make sure that everything we do is correct, even more so.
And is there any, you said you were using sort of best practices when you first set up your shop, not selling to people who are under 19 years old. So are there currently some standards that are being set through a form of accreditation that you could point us to, or certifications? Who's developing the best practices around what a vape shop professional should be?
The industry, one thing that you might want to understand about the way our industry works is, although we are competitors, we are subject matter experts who each share with one another. So what you're going to look at is the way this industry has grown and has evolved and matured very quickly is because we're all trying to raise that bar to be even better. So at this moment right now, we may not have an official accreditation program, but our Canadian Vaping Association is building one. The ECTA, the Electronic Cigarette Trade Association, is working on one, and we're getting there. But the growth that if you go into a vape shop in this city or in this province, you will be amazed about the knowledge, the caring, the quality of service that you will get. It's amazing. It's incredible, because we truly believe that we're not a tobacco product, and we truly believe we are helping someone not die from a tobacco-related illness, because those deaths are heartbreaking.